St. Mary's Hospital in Edinburgh, Scotland, has a documented history that few staff members discuss openly. What happened to Nurse Catherine Mills on November 3, 2008 remains in official hospital records, though the administration sealed the incident report. Catherine had worked the night shift for 7 years. Ward 7, the geriatrics wing, was her domain. That November night started like any other. Medication rounds at 10 p.m., vitals check at midnight, silence settling over the darkened corridors like a heavy blanket. At 1:47 a.m., the call button for room 714 illuminated. Catherine frowned. Room 714 had been empty since the previous patient, Mr. Robert Henderson, died there 3 days earlier. The room was scheduled for deep cleaning in the morning. She walked down the corridor, fluorescent lights humming overhead. The closer she got to 714, the colder the air became. Her breath misted. The heating system must be malfunctioning, she thought. The door to 714 stood slightly ajar. Catherine distinctly remembered closing it during her rounds. She pushed it open. The call button glowed red above the empty bed. The oxygen outlet hissed softly, though nothing was connected to it. Then she heard it, labored breathing, wet and rattling, coming from the bed. Catherine's training kicked in. She hit the light switch. The bed was empty, but the breathing continued. The thin hospital blanket began to move, rising and falling as if someone lay beneath it. She grabbed the blanket and yanked it away. Nothing. The breathing stopped. Catherine backed toward the door, her heart hammering. As she reached the threshold, the bathroom door inside the room slammed shut, then the closet, then the main door, nearly catching her arm. She ran to the nurse's station and called security. Officer James Walsh arrived within minutes. Together, they returned to 714. The room was freezing. Walsh's radio crackled with static, then a voice, Mr. Henderson's voice, which Catherine recognized from his final days, whispered through the static. "Help me. I'm still here. So cold." Walsh dropped his radio. Both of them fled. The next morning, Catherine reported to the hospital administrator, Dr. Patricia Kumar. Dr. Kumar listened, made notes, then opened a locked drawer in her desk. She pulled out a folder marked Ward 7 Confidential. "You're the fourth nurse to report this in 18 months, Dr. Kumar said quietly. "Mr. Henderson isn't the first. There have been others. Room 714 has the highest mortality rate in the hospital. We've documented 43 deaths in that room over 20 years. Catherine's blood ran cold. Why hasn't anyone done anything? We have. Priests, mediums, energy workers, nothing changes. The room resets and it starts again." Dr. Kumar showed Catherine photographs. In several pictures of the empty room, taken by different nurses over the years, a shadow appeared in the corner, humanoid, watching. Catherine requested transfer to the day shift. Her request was approved immediately. But before she left Ward 7 for the last time, she walked past room 714. The door was open. Inside, in the chair beside the empty bed, sat the shadow. It had form now, an old man in a hospital gown, his face hollow, eyes dark pits. He turned his head slowly toward her. Catherine never returned to St. Mary's Hospital. She submitted her resignation via email that same morning. But here's what the hospital doesn't tell its staff. Room 714 wasn't always a patient room. Historical records show that from 1923 to 1945, it was the morgue's cold storage. Over 300 bodies waited there, some unclaimed, some unidentified. When the hospital expanded in 1946, they built the new wing directly over the old morgue. They never moved the bodies. They simply poured concrete and built on top. Current staff at St. Mary's report that room 714 remains in use. The call button still activates on its own. Patients placed in that room often refuse to stay, complaining of someone watching them, of cold hands touching them at night, of whispered voices begging for help. The hospital's only protocol, never leave a patient alone in 714 overnight. Always assign double occupancy. But sometimes, late at night, nurses still see it, the shadow in the chair, waiting, watching, growing stronger. Catherine Mills now works at a private clinic in Glasgow. She refuses to discuss her time at St. Mary's, but those who know her say she keeps every light on in her house after dark and has never worked a night shift again. The dark doesn't forget, and neither does Ward 7. Story 2. The Operating Theater of Dr. Brennan. Mercy General Hospital in New Orleans documented one of the most disturbing paranormal cases in American medical history. The events of October 1997 led to the permanent closure of Operating Theater 3, a room that now sits empty, locked, and sealed behind a brick wall. Dr. Michael Brennan was a brilliant surgeon. Between 1952 and 1959, he performed over 800 successful operations in Theater 3. His specialty was cardiac surgery, pioneering work that saved countless lives. Then, on March 15, 1959, something went wrong. Patient Sarah Wheaton, age 34, died on his table. Cardiac arrest. Unexpected, unexplained. Dr. Brennan was devastated. He performed the autopsy himself, searching for answers. He found nothing. Her heart simply stopped. 1 week later, another patient died during routine surgery, then another, then another. In 6 months, Dr. Brennan lost 12 patients in Theater 3, all cardiac arrests, all unexplained. The medical board investigated. They found no malpractice, no negligence. Brennan's technique remained flawless, but the deaths destroyed him. On November 3, 1959, Dr. Michael Brennan entered Theater 3, locked the door, and hanged himself from the surgical light fixture. Theater 3 was closed for 2 years, then reopened in 1961. For decades, it operated normally, thousands of successful surgeries, no problems, until October 1997. Dr. James Chen was performing an appendectomy, routine procedure. The patient stable and healthy. At 3:47 p.m., all the lights in Theater 3 went out. Emergency power kicked in immediately, but for those few seconds, the room plunged into absolute darkness. When the lights returned, the instruments had moved. Scalpels, clamps, retractors, all rearranged on the tray, positioned perfectly for cardiac surgery. Dr. Chen hadn't touched them, neither had his team. The surgery continued. It was successful, but Dr. Chen reported the incident. The next day, Dr. Lisa Patel used Theater 3 for a knee replacement. At exactly 3:47 p.m., the lights failed. When they returned, the instruments had rearranged themselves again. Cardiac surgery setup, identical to the previous day. This happened 7 times over 2 weeks, always at 3:47 p.m., always the same rearrangement. The hospital administrator, Margaret Ross, decided to investigate. She reviewed Theater 3's history and discovered Dr. Brennan's story. She also found something else. Dr. Brennan had died at 3:47 p.m. Ross ordered Theater 3 closed for examination. Maintenance found nothing wrong with the electrical system. The room was empty, sealed, monitored by cameras. At 3:47 p.m. on October 28, 1997, the cameras captured it. The surgical light began to swing, slowly at first, then violently. Instruments on the sealed tray lifted into the air, hovering, then arranged themselves in the cardiac surgery pattern. The operating table's straps unbuckled and rebuckled on their own. Then, in the corner of the frame, a shadow appeared. It had the shape of a man in surgical scrubs. It moved to the operating table. It stood there, hands positioned as if holding instruments, as if performing surgery on an invisible patient.
The shadow worked for 17 minutes. Then it walked to the corner where Dr. Brennan's body had hung. The shadow looked up, reached upward, and vanished. Margaret Ross shut down Theater 3 immediately. She brought in Father Thomas O'Neill, a priest experienced in hospital hauntings. Father O'Neill spent 3 nights in Theater 3. On the 3rd night, he reported his findings. Dr. Brennan is still here. He's trying to save them, the 12 patients who died. He performs surgery every day at 3:47, the time of his death. He's trapped in a loop, trying to fix his failures, trying to save them. He doesn't know he's dead. Father O'Neill attempted an exorcism. During the ritual, every light in Theater 3 exploded. Glass rained down. The surgical table flipped over. The shadow appeared, screaming. Staff outside the locked door heard it, a sound of pure anguish that lasted 30 seconds. Then silence. Father O'Neill emerged, bleeding from glass cuts, shaking. He won't leave. He can't leave, not until he saves them. Mercy General Hospital sealed Theater 3 in November 1997. They built a brick wall in front of the door, no windows, no access. But staff working in adjacent operating theaters report sounds through the wall. At 3:47 p.m. every day, they hear it. Equipment moving, the hum of surgical lights, the beeping of heart monitors, and sometimes, very faintly, the sound of a man weeping. Security footage from the hallway outside the sealed room occasionally captures shadows moving beneath the brick wall. Shadows that look like feet pacing back and forth, endlessly. Dr. Michael Brennan is still operating, still trying to save his patients, still trapped in Theater 3. The hospital has a standing policy: never schedule surgeries in the rooms adjacent to the sealed room at 3:47 p.m. On the rare occasions this rule is broken, patients report feeling watched, feeling cold hands touching them, hearing a voice whisper, "I can save you. Please let me save you." The dark doesn't just haunt, sometimes it tries to heal, and that's even more terrifying.
Blackwood Medical Center in Boston experienced an event in 2003 that forced the permanent closure of its basement morgue. The official report cited structural concerns. The truth, documented in sealed witness statements, is far more disturbing. Morgue attendant David Walsh had worked at Blackwood for 15 years. The basement morgue, built in 1887, was old but functional, cold storage for up to 40 bodies. David preferred the night shift, quiet, solitary, no interruptions. On December 19, 2003, David received 3 bodies from the emergency department, motor vehicle accident, DOA. He logged them, drawers 12, 13, and 14. At 2:30 a.m., he heard it, a metallic bang from the cold storage room, like someone hitting a drawer from the inside. David checked the security monitor. Nothing. He returned to his desk. Another bang, louder. He walked to cold storage. The temperature hit him like a wall. The room was always cold, but this was different, Arctic. His breath froze instantly. Drawer 14 was vibrating. David's hand shook as he reached for the handle. Morgue attendant protocol: always investigate unusual sounds. Bodies shift, gases escape. Sometimes drawers don't latch properly. He pulled the handle. The drawer slid out. The body, male, mid-40s, massive head trauma, lay exactly as David had positioned it. But the man's eyes were open, wide open, staring at the ceiling. David's heart hammered. Post-mortem eye-opening. It happens. Muscles relax. Eyelids retract. He reached to close them. The corpse's hand grabbed his wrist. David screamed and yanked away. The hand released. He stumbled backward. The body lay still, eyes open, hand resting on its chest. Impossible. He'd verified death. The man had been dead for 6 hours. No pulse, no respiration, no brain activity. David ran to his desk and called Dr. Raymond Torres, the on-call pathologist. Torres arrived within 20 minutes. Together, they approached drawer 14. The body hadn't moved. Torres checked for vitals. Nothing. Flatline. Room temperature skin. Fixed lividity. Definitely deceased. Post-mortem spasm, Torres said, though he sounded uncertain. You probably triggered a muscle contraction when you touched the body. David nodded, wanting to believe it. Torres left. David returned to his desk. His coffee had frozen solid. At 3:15 a.m., all three drawers, 12, 13, and 14, opened simultaneously, slowly, deliberately, rolling out on their tracks until they locked in place. David watched on the security monitor, paralyzed with fear. 3 bodies lying side by side, visible on the screen. Then they sat up. All 3 corpses sat upright in perfect unison, heads turning toward the camera, toward David. He ran, straight up the stairs, through the hospital to the security office. Officer Rita Martinez reviewed the footage. The bodies sat upright for 17 seconds. Then they lay back down. The drawers closed themselves. Martinez called hospital administration. By 4 a.m., Dr. Ellen Hartwell, the chief medical officer, stood in the morgue with David, Rita, and 2 security officers. Dr. Hartwell examined the bodies. All 3 were definitely deceased. She reviewed the footage. No explanation. "We seal the morgue tonight, effective immediately," she said. But as they prepared to leave, the lights went out. Emergency power failed. Absolute darkness. David heard footsteps, bare feet slapping on concrete, coming closer. Rita's flashlight clicked on. The beam swept the room. All 3 bodies stood in a line, blocking the exit. Eyes open, mouths open, not breathing, not blinking, just standing. "This isn't possible," Dr. Hartwell whispered. The corpse from drawer 14 stepped forward. Its jaw moved, clicking and grinding. Then it spoke, voice like gravel scraping metal. "We're not alone down here." "What?" David managed. The corpse's head tilted at an unnatural angle. "In the walls, under the floor. They've been here since the beginning. They're hungry." "Who's hungry?" Dr. Hartwell demanded, her voice shaking. "The ones who never left." The basement floor began to crack. Fissures spread across the concrete like spider webs. From the cracks, a smell erupted. Decay, earth, and something older, something wrong. Dark shapes emerged from the floor. Not solid, not shadow, something between. They had forms, humanoid, twisted, wrong. Dozens of them crawling up through the cracks, reaching toward the living. Rita screamed. They ran. The corpses didn't follow. They simply watched as the 5 living people fled up the stairs. Behind them, the sounds grew, scraping, moaning, the crack of breaking concrete. They sealed the basement door, called the police, called the fire department, called everyone. By dawn, structural engineers confirmed the basement morgue was collapsing. The floor had fractured, revealing something beneath, a sub-basement, unrecorded in any building plans. Excavation crews found it, a mass grave, over 200 bodies, dating from 1887 to 1912. Hospital records from that era were destroyed in a fire, so identification was impossible. The bodies showed signs of disease, plague, cholera, typhoid. They'd been buried beneath the morgue, forgotten. The hospital sealed the entire basement with concrete, 12 feet thick. The old morgue entrance was bricked over and covered with drywall. David Walsh quit the next day. Dr. Hartwell transferred to a hospital in California. Rita Martinez took early retirement. But maintenance staff at Blackwood report sounds from below. At night, when the hospital is quiet, they hear it. Footsteps beneath the basement floor, scratching on concrete, voices calling up from the dark. And sometimes, late at night, the security cameras in the hallway outside the sealed entrance capture shadows moving behind the drywall, shapes that look like people pressing against the barrier, trying to get out. The basement morgue is gone, but whatever woke up that December night is still there, beneath 12 feet of concrete, still hungry, still calling, still trying to reach the living.
Because the dark doesn't just haunt hospitals. Sometimes the hospitals are built on top of the dark, and eventually the dark comes back.